Hey, aricRdavid here. Congratulations. You've made it to part 3 of my 3-part home purchasing tutorial. To recap real quick, the first part was timeline, lender, finding a realtor, figuring out your finances. Second part was figuring out what you wanted to find in a home, where you wanted it, how much you wanted to buy, how much you want to pay for it, how to check out the home, figure out if it's something that you want to put an offer on, structuring an offer, and submitting an offer on a property. In this section, we will be discussing what happens once you do get your offer accepted and you are under contract on a purchase. Once your contract has been accepted, you are going to need to do 2 things right off the bat. The first one is to get the amount of earnest money that you promised in the original contract to the seller's title company. You would have discussed that with your realtor on how much earnest money you wanted to deposit with their title company for this transaction to proceed. The second thing you're going to need to do is figure out your inspection. You're going to need to decide what inspection company you want to use. Your realtor may have a few referrals that they can give you. You're going to want to decide what inspections you want performed on the home. Basic, termite, sewer, radon. It goes on and on. Basic and termite cover a lot of things. I generally, on an older home, will recommend a sewer scope just in case there's any breaks in the line, any sagging, especially older homes that have clay tile or anything like that, or if there's a huge tree in the front yard and those roots are going to grow into that sewer line, I will recommend a sewer scope. Once you decide on what inspection company you want to use and what inspections you want performed, let your realtor know. They will coordinate the day and time for the inspection company to go out there. The realtor will usually attend the inspections. You are more than welcome to attend, but you don't have to be there. You will get a substantial report and you will be able to call those inspectors if you want. If you had any questions on the report, your realtor can also relay anything that was talked about at the inspection with the inspectors. In most cases, before that inspection company can release the report, they will need payment from you. Payments are similar across companies. You're looking at a basic and a termite for about $500. A sewer scope is about 100, a radon's about 100, 200, somewhere in there. If you did the works, you could be spending anywhere from $700 to $1,000, depending on what all you're having performed. When deciding on what you want performed in your inspection, just look back to the house. If you didn't smell mold or see any wet spots, or the house is only a year old, not saying that it can't have mold, but you may not need a mold inspection. Use your best judgment, and this is the period of due diligence. So you need to use this point in time to discover anything and everything about the house. So just because you want to save $100 now and not get that sewer scope, that may bite you later on where you're paying $7,000 to have a sewer line replaced because you didn't want to spend $100 on a sewer scope.
Don't get cheap on me, Dodson.
So those are things to think about, and I always recommend to do as much as you want to do or can do in the inspection process. The inspection period is a standard of 10 days. Sometimes people will make it shorter, sometimes people will make it longer, but that is a 10-day inspection period. So the sooner you can get that inspection done, the more time you have to look over the report and decide what you want to do. Now, if you did an as-is in its present condition, like we discussed in part 2, that will limit your negotiating power, if not completely cut it off, and you might just be stuck accepting the property as is, or just needing to cancel rather than renegotiate the terms of the original contract. If you didn't do an in its present condition form and you can renegotiate, this is a point in time where you can either ask for repairs, or you can ask for a monetary allotment to your closing costs, or ask for a price reduction on the home, or even have them purchase a home warranty for you. It all just depends on what they find in the home and what you are comfortable with accepting the property from that point forward. So once you get the report and you decide how you want to renegotiate, you'll let your realtor know, and they will write up a resolution of unacceptable conditions, and that is any fixes, any monetary allotments that they can give you, concessions, anything of that sort. And once you send that over, that starts a 5-day renegotiation period, and that means that the seller and the buyer have to come to terms in those 5 days, or the contract can be canceled by either party. If the house just looked like a money pit and you you want to cancel. In most cases, you can just write a cancellation and you will get that earnest money refunded to you unless you had done a heavy in its present condition form where you were already giving up your rights to the earnest money deposit in the event that you wanted to cancel. But in most cases, you will be getting your earnest money back. Discuss that with your realtor on your purchase. If everything looked good and you don't need to have them fix anything or aren't trying to nickel and dime them on anything or get the price reduced for yourself or anything like that, then you will accept the property in its present condition and move on from there. Once you've passed that inspection period and that resolution period, then you will have your lender order the appraisal. I generally tell the lender to hold off on ordering the appraisal until we get past that. Sometimes you have to specify, sometimes they just know not to do it because you do pay for the appraisal up front as well. Some lenders will put it in the closing costs, but a lot of them will need it paid up front because if you cancel or anything bad happens, they do need to be compensated for it. But they will order the appraisal. That is generally about $300 to $500 and takes about 2 weeks for them to get out there, decide the value of the home and generate that report and get it over to us. Depending on what type of loan you have, may bring up other issues. If you are doing an FHA or a VA loan, they are a little more strict on things. Handrails, peeling paint, wood rot, anything like that could hang up an FHA or a VA loan. If it's a conventional loan, it's not likely that there are going to be any hang-ups besides the value of a home. And in any of those cases, if an appraiser values the home for less than the contract price, that starts a whole nother renegotiation period too, where the seller is either going to ask you to come up with cash to make up the difference, or the seller's going to have to come down in price because your loan won't cover any more than what that appraised value comes in at. So if you offered $300,000 on a property and that appraiser comes in and says, oh, looking at the comps and the actual house itself, I value it only at $280,000, that is a $20,000 difference from what you guys agreed on. And if you can't come up with that 20 grand and the seller doesn't want to come off that 20 grand, then the whole thing will fall apart at that point. I try to avoid this by letting my clients know what I think the property could appraise for and if it is overpriced for the area. If it is, I wouldn't want you going in and wasting the time and money to do the inspections and the appraisal just to have it all fall apart 2 weeks before it's supposed to close. The best thing that can happen at this point is the appraiser values it at or higher than contract price and doesn't need any repairs made in order to fulfill what that lender requires for that loan type. Once you are past the appraisal part of the whole transaction, that's where it is just a waiting game where your lender is sending all this paperwork over to underwriting, who's just going to verify everything about you, make sure everything's right, credit score, debt to income, the appraisal. They're going to look over everything and issue a clear to close. In the meantime, while they are doing this, it will be your responsibility to schedule all of your utilities to be turned on at the new home and shut off wherever you're living at now. So if in the main contract we were closing on the 15th, I would call all your utilities and have them at least scheduled to turn on the 15th on the home that you're purchasing. At this point, you will also want to already have your homeowner's insurance in place, ready to go for closing so that they can factor in those numbers and get you a closer mortgage payment, because homeowner's insurance is in your mortgage payment along with taxes. Once you're about a week out from closing and everything's good to go, you will talk to your realtor and they will set up a time for the closing on the day that you had previously wrote the contract up for. For closing, you will go to the title company that your realtor is wanting to use or that the seller is using. Most of the time for closing, all you're going to need to bring is your ID, whatever funds it's going to take to close. If you are paying your closing costs or down payment, you're going to either wire the money, send wiring instructions previously to the title company, or bring in a certified check. You can't do personal checks. Once you hand all that stuff over and they make copies, they are going to have you sign a huge stack of paper. Once you get all that paper signed, they will get it submitted. Once it's submitted, your lender will release the funds. Once the funds are released to the title company, it counts as funded and it is your possession. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I hope this tutorial kept your attention and taught you something. If you have any questions about any part of this tutorial, please feel free to leave a comment below and I will answer it. I want to do more videos over some of the other things that I touched base on that I didn't want to just keep going on and on about, but there are specific things in there that could use a lot more detail. But let me know what you want to hear, what you have questions about, and I will be more than happy to answer them. Thank you for watching, and I will see you later.